Welcome to the Yankee and Canuck podcast, Star Wars special.
And today we're going to be talking about Return of the Jedi, classic 1983 film. This is the third Star Wars film to come out in the original trilogy. This is, in fact, the last Star Wars film. Everything else that came after it does not count. This is
It
it.
was all crap. Let's be honest, it's the real conclusion of the Skywalker saga in film. This movie, Jedi, pretty much gave us as good of an ending as you want.
When it comes to this film, this is actually my first Star Wars film. As I said in the first episode of the series, I started with Jedi because it was a VHS I just found randomly in the house. I don't know how that VHS got into my house. My dad in particular and my mom in particular were not huge Star Wars fans at all. I think they knew I loved the Ewok films because I started with the Ewok films originally. And they probably were like, hey, this has got Ewoks in it. He's going to like it. But I never knew about it until I randomly found it. And when I saw it, I just fell in love with the movie, you know. The first thing I noticed was the beginning with the Jabba's palace scene. It was filled with all these puppets and stuff like that, all these monsters and people in costumes and whatnot. I was like, I really thought this was a Jim Henson movie when I first saw it. I was like, this is the coolest Jim Henson movie I've ever seen in my life. He did a great job with this. Where are the Muppets going to come up, you know?
The Muppets.
I really thought it was a Muppet movie. I really did. That's how awesome. Well, because the beginning, it was just like that. It just took you to a completely different world. And most of the things in Jabba's palace were just creatures, you know? Or people wearing prosthetics and whatnot. So it just got me into that
whole palace of strangeness. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, in such a good way too, because it just like it transformed into a whole different thing. And once you got out of Jabba's palace and you get into the other areas and stuff like that, that's when it really gave this feeling of enormity, where it just feels like a big galaxy in and of itself, because it was so varied, you know, with the amount of content that was in it. And of course, when it got to the Ewok part, I was like, oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So from beginning to end, this was my first, you know, Star Wars film. And honestly, I felt like this was the only Star Wars film. It wasn't until a little bit later I realized, oh, there are two other ones. So I got into Empire. Then I got
there's
into
more.
Yeah,
there's more.
Yeah, so I got into the film series that way. But yeah, you know, and this solidified my love for the series, and it's still to this day my favorite one. Not because it was the first one I ever saw, but because it has so much good in this whole thing. There's just so much, like, it takes from the first movie, obviously, but I feel like it just made it better. It expanded upon it. It just improved upon it. You know, it just never gets boring to me. I just loved watching this over and over again back then, and I still love watching this over and over again now.
I mean, it's a great combination of the three films, you know, right? So, as Vader said it, the circle is now complete. You know, exactly. I mean, that's essentially what it is, right? So,
yeah, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, super iconic. I mean, very memorable. I would make an argument that maybe it's almost as memorable as Empire, if not more, maybe. I don't think it's as good as Empire. It's still really good, you know. And this is, like we said, last of the films of Star Wars being superb, you know, or Star Wars excellence. This was the end of it, you know. That's the best way to put it. I think.
I think this is way before Legends, or at that point it was called Extended Universe.
Yeah, I mean, there was always Legends written. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like, well, yeah, for sure. But then, you know, this is before the commodification of Star Wars really were ramped up.
Correct.
Matter of fact, people said that it really started with this film, with the Ewoks in particular. It's like, oh, you know, they were clearly created as a merchandise opportunity, you know. And, you know,
well, I mean, there's some truth to that, but
there was already a merchandising blitz from the first film, you know, the infamous, like, hey, buy a cardboard box with a little cardboard, like, insert, and then you'll get your toys next year. You know, so that was already happening, but you know, this was really Lucas being like, hey, you know, I can make way more money than I can now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it led into Extended Universe, Legends, and the video games and all that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny because so many, like you, Yankee, you find this to is your favorite Star Wars film, right? I totally get it. I've heard it from a lot of people. It's definitely one of the most divisive of the OT.
I'm ready to fight every single point made about that too. By the way,
I mean, it is because, and obviously a lot of that has to do with, like you said, the Ewoks. I personally have
that's
no
the primary
issue
one.
With,
yeah.
Those other ones.
There are other things.
There's others that I agree with more, like the special edition changes and whatnot. But you know, I personally have no issue with the Ewoks. Well, for the most part.
I have no issue. I'm actually, now that I really think about it, those little shits could die in the fire for all I care. No, I
Would
mean,
Wookiees instead have been better, more awesome? Yeah, probably.
I mean, here's the thing. I've heard, it was going to be Wookiees. It's known that it was going to be Wookiees originally. It was, yes. And all Lucas did is took a hatchet and chopped them in half and made them Ewoks. But the thing I don't like about that, people saying that, is like, listen, we already know Wookiees exist through Chewbacca. Why do you want to see? Enough, yeah. I mean, like, I like the fact, this is the brilliance of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, sure. You could say it was George Lucas selling out. You could say it was just money in his eyes and he's just all this stuff. Yeah, sure. Okay, sure. But the way I see it and the way I saw it as a little kid is like, oh, this is a whole different world filled with completely different creatures. You have the Chewbacca, you have like the Wookiee, but now you have these little bite-sized things. And then when I got to the first movie, I was like, oh, you have Jawas. This essentially, to me, I thought they were Ewoks with little cloaks on. That's the way I saw them.
Because you saw it in reverse, yeah.
Because I saw it in reverse, yeah. And reverse, but like even then, it's just like those are completely different creatures, So I mean, what I love about the Star Wars films, especially the first three, is that they're not only are we on different terrains, different like biospheres, they're different creatures in all these different biospheres. There's different languages. There's all kinds of different things happening that when you're watching a Star Wars film, you're watching almost like a documentary in a way. You're watching like a completely different world unravel. You get so lost in the minutia of things, you don't even know you're watching a movie at times. It just feels like you're really transported to a different world, which is why these films are just so popular, even to this day. There's just like that magic and mysticism to it where you're just like, you just feel so enraptured by it. And you just feel like you're a part of this whole thing. Return of the Jedi, I feel like, is like
you're supposed to be defending the Ewoks right here.
I'll get to that, sir.
I don't hear
my ultimate point for all this thing.
So, all I hear is I'm not going to talk about the Ewoks, but they're great.
Yeah, we'll circle. We're going to circle back to the Ewoks. My ultimate point, though, is that it just feels so varied and original that I feel like if you were to bring the Wookiees into it, I'll be like, come on, man, this is like cheap. I've seen this before. Why are you bringing this back? It's lazy.
Where did you see the Ewoks? I'm sorry, the Wookiees.
Only Chewbacca. Through Chewbacca, yeah. But I'm like, I already like, but having heard that argument years later, I'm like, I mean, like if it was all
what about a combination of Wookiees and Ewoks?
Why would they live side by side? That wouldn't make any sense to me.
No, they brought in the rebels. Oh,
you mean they brought in Wookiee? They imported Wookiees from Kashyyyk.
Right, which was actually, I mean, Wookiees were to be a part originally in some scripts.
Well, yeah, but it was going to be on Kashyyyk though, wasn't it?
Right, but in this, they bring Wookiees to the forest moon of Endor, where the Ewoks are, and
that wouldn't make sense. No, that wouldn't make sense at all because like they're infiltrating.
I'm just trying to work with me, man. I'm just trying to.
No, but I'm sorry. But the way the story is written, they're infiltrating like an Empire-controlled area, and the Ewoks happen to live there prior to them. So I mean, like, they're already sneaking in. How can you sneak in Wookiees?
How did the rebels get there in the first place? They flew in there.
Yeah, they
snuck in some Wookiees as well.
They snuck in. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, sure that they had some reinforcements, and I guess they were already there. Perhaps that could have been a thing, but I don't know.
I don't have a major issue with the Ewoks. I always thought, it works. I mean, also when you watch the movie, the Ewoks, they got heart. They fight. They die. They utilize guerrilla tactics.
That's the important thing.
They eat humans. They obviously want to eat them.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's the important thing too. They die.
As a fan of horror movies, I wish they leaned in on that more.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't actually, but it's mostly implied. Yeah, but right. It's important but the important thing is they die too. That's like for something like this that something kid oriented, seeing these creatures just die. In the middle of battle, and they're protecting their homeworld from these invaders. They
have to die because they're waging guerrilla warfare on the Empire, which is the most formidable army in the galaxy.
Yeah,
and so there has to be consequence. There has to be and of course, in the scenes that they have, it's very powerful.
Yeah,
the music changes, and John Williams,
of course. Yeah, but my point is, like, if Disney had their hands on this back then, they wouldn't have not allowed that. That's my point.
Yeah, well, I don't.
Oh no, you can't kill the Ewoks. We were gonna make plush toys out of those. They'll make the children cry. Lucas just like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. If some Ewoks have to eat, then some Ewoks have to eat. So it's like,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
brilliant because it's just like because going in again, coming from the Ewok movies that I
But
saw.
George Lucas wasn't gonna. Yeah, but George Lucas wasn't gonna make this movie too dark because he already had Empire.
Well, yeah,
I don't think that's.
no. I mean, like he already made it that way because by killing the Ewoks, you know what I mean? Especially coming in from Empire, like Lucas wasn't really coming it from a, think of the children kind of an angle, which is brilliant. That's why.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Otherwise, why would the Ewoks die in this film?
The whole argument of the Ewoks is the movie becomes a baby movie because of the Ewoks.
Well, yeah, that's. I know that's
Who
the
wants to watch a bunch of teddy bears? Like
I do.
like yeah, you obviously like this movie, and I like it too. But the argument that people made was,
I want to be big and tough.
This movie is becoming too childlike, like Leia feeding this little Ewok and Wicket. Obviously, I know.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with it. I don't have an issue with it, but I kind of understand where people come from. With,
I don't. Yeah, the perspective when I hear that perspective,
that's the marketing of it. The
well,
Ewoks
when I hear
when I hear that
when I hear that perspective, all I'm hearing is people be like, "I want it to be big and tough. Why isn't it more big and tough? Why isn't there more murder and mayhem? I wanted there to be scary monsters from beginning." That's
what's
what I'm
a guerrilla
hearing.
war? They're trying to wage a guerrilla war. It should be deadly and dangerous. I think it was enough. I think there's a couple scenes there that they're potent and
but the
and
creatures,
like
the creatures themselves don't have to be scary or imposing. I mean, why?
I don't know. I agree.
Wouldn't they
be
scared little woodland creatures that have primitive needs to
totally
fight back?
agree. I'm playing devil's advocate. I totally agree. I don't have an issue with the Ewoks. I think
yeah, no, I'm just
maybe there's some elements, but yeah, go ahead.
I'm just attacking that position,
the premise,
that premise. Yeah, no, because again, like every attack on this movie, I'm gonna defend because it's just like it's just absurd, and unfortunately, like, and there's another aspect to it. It's not just the Ewoks that are like or.
Well, there's other arguments that can be made as well. I'll let you. Yeah, go ahead.
We're gonna still talk about Ewoks, or it's just like, what was my ultimate point originally? Well, my ultimate point originally
the Ewoks
was
are your favorite thing about Star Wars.
Well, off. They're not.
I love the Ewoks.
I love the Ewoks, but not that much.
You like the Ewoks so much. Why did you marry one?
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have an Ewok orgy. On the forest moon of Endor.
Those are the
little
jokes
tree
we made in
houses.
the 80s and 90s, folks. So much. Why did you marry?
I wanted them all in my bed. Little fluffy dolls. I'm gonna put a fleshlight in one of them.
And now we get flagged.
This is stuff that will never be publicly released.
What really went on with the Ewoks?
That's right, you little bitch. You like that, don't you?
We should get not Charlie Rose. We get you know who does the voice for it? Freaking Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh,
David Stack, Robert Stack.
Robert Stack, yeah.
What really went on with the Ewoks on Endor? Rumors were that Yankee had something involved with it.
But anyway, Ewoks aside, though, I mean, like, another thing that this movie suffers from is...
I did have one point I wanted to make.
Well, go for it.
Yeah. I didn't finish this point because your love of the Ewoks took over.
Oh, spit it out. What is your point?
So, but like I said, I mean, the Ewoks, it works. I think, and one aspect of it, I think it's only one part of the trifecta of the conclusion, right? The ending, the three things taking place: the space battle, Luke, Vader, and Emperor, and the fight on the forest moon of Endor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the people, the arguments about the Ewoks, okay, maybe there's some, some of it might be, relevant and okay, whatever, but they're all connected, they're all vital to each other, right?
Oh yeah, very much.
And at the end of the day, we're all being manipulated by George Lucas
to buy the toys.
Buy the toys. Let's be honest, we are. So, but these are vital components of the film, and I never had an issue with the Ewoks. I understand some of the issues that people had with it, and I think there is merit to some of the disagreements and way of thinking. But mean, you love this movie, so you're going to defend
like,
it no matter what. So,
yeah,
as
well,
you should.
because you really think about it when it circling back to Ewoks, it's just like if they were completely different creatures that were similar to Wookiees, then I would feel like this is. If I were to first see this film, I would have been like, oh, this is pretty cool. But if I were to see the other films prior, especially the first one, I'm like, oh wait, they're little creatures here, but why are there more of the same creatures here and there? And this is starting to feel unoriginal. You know what I mean? And the brilliant thing about, and I think even on some level in the prequels too, like each film is different that Lucas has done, and he's on record saying like, I worked very hard to make each film different. You know, so whether or not the quality is good or not, that's for people to debate. But you know, to his credit, he did make each film different. And I feel like on a creature standpoint, that is very true. It really started with Jabba's palace, and it just goes all the way to Endor's moon with the Ewoks, and it's brilliant. It's just a brilliant move on his part.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think Lucas, one of his strengths was always world building and character building and creation building. Him and team of a whole bunch of other people involved, and they created a whole lot of creatures and aliens and species, and then that got taken much further with Legends, video games, and novelizations, comics.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking thousands of species at this point.
Yeah,
you know, it's fantastic, and the film does a great job presenting so many. And I think some people maybe with this film, a lot of the people watched it in order, right, of A New Hope and Empire and then Jedi, and so maybe they're coming from you're coming from Empire, and this is what you got, you know.
Yeah, I know. I think that's why a lot of people are.
You have to be fair, you know.
I'm not going to be fair,
as well.
But I could at least be a little understanding, because you go from like a big tough film, and now you get the baby film, and now people don't like the baby film. I'm just like, I'm sorry, but all three of these films, you can argue they're all baby films, but on very low.
Well,
maybe Empire's
probably
Empire's the least, maybe, but still, it's
no. Those are the Ewok side films they made. Those are the baby.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, you saw one of them, did you?
What, Battle of Endor?
Yes.
What was the other one?
It's called Caravan of Courage is the first one.
Caravan of Courage.
Yeah.
I've always heard it my whole life. I never got around to watching it. I didn't have it on VHS or anything, so I never watched those movies, and I only watched the original trilogy and the prequels when they came out later. And
of course.
So, yeah.
No,
you're a big fan of those Ewok movies. I mean, you started on that.
Well, I started on. Yeah, I love those. Well, very quickly, because it's not about the Ewok films; it's about Jedi. But with the Ewok films, what I loved about those films, watching it as a kid, especially the second one, especially having rewatched it recently, is that it's not patronizing. It shows death and destruction and mayhem and loss, and it shows all like it's like you're watching a refugee of war going through these horrors through the perspective of a little girl in this case of the second film. And it's just brilliant. Like when I was watching it as a 5-6-year-old kid, I felt like, oh, this is realistic. This doesn't feel like these Care Bear cartoons I've been watching where they all have good, happy, fun times and everyone's, everyone comes out unscathed at the end. No, this one is just like their consequences. This little girl's family completely is decimated before her. And I'm like, holy shit, this is really hardcore. So that I appreciated about those films.
That came out in 85, I think, right?
Yes.
A couple years after Empire, I think.
Yep, exactly. I think Caravan of Courage came out a year prior, and then Battle of Endor came out in 85, yeah. Did you end up watching it or no?
No, I didn't actually. I saw some of it, and Caravan of Courage I didn't see, and Battle of Endor I watched a little bit of it, but I didn't end up watching all of it. I will, though. I'm going to watch all of it.
You pieced out of it.
No, something came up, and I just never I tried, I tried.
My better taste kicked in, and I was like, I ain't watching through this crap.
Well, you know what? It's bloody better than the sequel trilogy. Let me tell you that. So,
yeah, I have to agree with that. Yeah, at least there's an actual story involved with these Ewok movies.
There is a story. Yes, I mean the kid and the Ewoks are battling for their home on Endor. I mean, there's a bloody story there, right? There's something to work with.
That's not quite the plot, but it's like, yeah, but as a matter of fact, in those movies too, that's the first time
being invaded by some gang, some marauders or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, that is
basically.
It is a kind of a part. At least the story's there. It's present. It's fine. And it works. And it's came out in the 80s, so I'm
It
I
was
like
a
80s movies, and this works. It's fine.
well, it's a dark
not meant to
fantasy
be.
movie too, so it's an 80s dark fantasy movie. So I mean, like
Correct, yeah.
that's all the rage these days with all the memes and stuff. But this is one of those. So there's a lot of those kind of hard edge elements and visualizations and things of that nature. And this is actually the first appearance of the Night Sisters. You know, because
Oh, that's true.
I think one of the early criticisms of that film, other than the fact it's an Ewok film, is the fact that, like, why is there magic in Star Wars now? Like, we had the Force, it's this mysterious, mystic thing, and now you have, like, a witch that does magic through her ring? What's going on here? Why is this a blatant fantasy film? And we all know the answer, because George is like, I want magic, and we're gonna have magic.
George gets what he wants, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't in A New Hope, but after that, made a lot of money, did really well. He gets what he wants, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And
And and if he wants it in 20 years later, he's gonna put it in now.
oh yeah, until that man dies, he's gonna put whatever the hell he wants in these films. So even after the fact, but like yeah, but that was the first instance of that, and people just decided to make that into a whole different thing. So these are Force using witches, which is a pretty cool concept actually. But anyway, back to Jedi. I mean, another aspect that's criticized too is the whole. The pacing in this film is said to be a lot slower, more doddering than the other two films, especially the first film. I think the first film has perfect pacing. The second one is pretty good in terms of its pacing. This one is a little slower, though. And a lot of that is because of Empire, unfortunately. Because there are good chunks of the film that are dedicated to justifying, you know, Vader is Luke's father. And they added another plot twist on top of that, which is, oh yeah, by the way, Princess Leia, she's also Luke's sister and the daughter of Vader. And you're just like,
Yes.
what? Why? And we know the reason why. Empire's twist was so famous. It was such a big deal. They were like, let's do it again. Let's see here. Let's put another Skywalker in there and hey, Princess Leia, let's make her like the sister or whatever. Hey, let's call it a day. I'm like, that created a lot of problems already, because now you have to be like, okay, Vader this entire time had no idea that these were his kids, you know? It's just like, come on.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, you only know that in Empire.
yeah.
You start to learn that in Empire. So
Yeah, it was already a problem in Empire. It's even more of a problem by Jedi. So, if anything, there are a lot of things I'm willing to defend on the original trilogy, especially this movie, but that's going to be one of those things where I'm like, okay, listen, they're clearly making shit up. There's no way to justify this or make excuses. They were just making things up.
yeah, the slow side though. I mean, like I said, when we were filming, when we were recording New Hope, you know, I think some people actually I've heard find this movie start a little slow as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the same sentiment is shared with the other films with some people. I never found that to be the case. In New Hope, I think a lot of people felt Tatooine was a little slow initially, and we already discussed it, and I think it's great for world building, and I don't find it slow, but I can see where people come from, but and in this case, same thing, you know, there's such a good payoff, even at those specific points, right? And then at the end, of course, what a great payoff, you know, you stay to the end, it's so damn good, right? So
Yeah. Well, to circle back to Jabba's palace, I guess, I mean, I just love the fact that you get to the Sarlacc pit, and that Sarlacc pit is just so disgusting. You know, it's just so disturbing and disgusting. That is the most horror-esque thing. And the Rancor scene before that, I loved that when I saw that. I was like, holy crap, this is so cool.
I think the lightsaber fight in Return of the Jedi at the end is very, you know, it has a lot of impact, right? Just
Yeah.
like Empire,
Awesome.
right? So everyone has these conversations of which lightsaber fights better. Is this one better? I don't know, man. Like some of them are good, some of them are good. You know, it's all about what the impact is, and then how do you compare it if you look at the emotional level of it, right?
Uh-huh.
A better lightsaber scene for sure. I think in Jedi, in my opinion, equal impact at the emotional and storytelling level of Empire. Empire's emotionally important because you know, I'm your father. You know, obviously that's a big part of it, right? So the end of that lightsaber sequence,
You know, cut
it's
off
a great
your
fight
hand.
too. It's a great fight too. You know, in Empire you see how far Luke has come with his abilities. You know, and you
Mhm.
even see in Empire Vader have to change it up, realizing Luke has some skills, right?
Yeah.
You see that in Empire. He even lands a shot on Vader and his suit up or whatever.
Yeah.
And but then you see Luke break down, right? He gasses out, you know, he falls apart, and then he's like, ah, there goes my head, and he's like, I gotta fly out of here, you know,
And
Cloud
cry.
City, you know, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's Empire, all right. A movie done so damn well. But
Mhm.
I digress. Return of the Jedi, you have a lightsaber sequence. You feel the fight. You feel the intensity. You feel Luke tap into the anger, right? The fear.
Yeah.
Especially when Vader says, he mentions Princess Leia.
Sister.
I'm gonna turn her. I'm gonna turn. Yeah, exactly. He's like, because he reads his thoughts. He's like, Luke's all anxiety driven, and he's like freaking out about his friends, and Vader reads that in his mind. He's like, okay,
Yeah, he's like a cornered animal.
yeah, exactly. So that's when Luke kind of fights back, and turns and taps into the dark side. I like to say that's what it is, really. The anger, the fear. And that scene carries so much weight. It's done so well.
Yeah, no, I
At least
agree.
in the end part, right? I think that's it's
whole-
much better than the lightsaber sequence on Tatooine. We were talking about Jabba the Hutt and Jabba's palace, and then
Oh, the
when they're on
barge scene. Oh, that scene's
the barge.
Yeah, but that scene's awesome though. I know what you mean.
It's fantastic.
On
It's
an
fantastic,
emotional
but-
standpoint, I understand your point. So
exactly. And a lightsaber sequence, it's just Luke swinging wild. Although it's not as fluid or as good to look at, but to be fair, it's close quarters, and he's a bit hasty considering the situation and having to get the lightsaber. He's about to be executed in the Sarlacc, and then the R2 has to throw the lightsaber. So it's a complicated situation to be in. So it doesn't look too good. So that on the sail barge, that sequence, okay, sloppy. It's like kind of like okay, but it makes sense at the same time if you take into consideration the situation, right? You have to be a little hasty. It's like this is life and death. React quickly, but at the end of the film, very different. And that sequence was great. That had the power behind it, had the emotion, it had the writing, it had the music, and everything going behind it. Watching the movie, I don't know, for the 20th time. It's been years, but seen it so many times. Let me tell you,
I still love that scene though. I mean, because especially as
good,
as a little kid watching this, not knowing what the hell a lightsaber is, imagine that's my introduction to a lightsaber. That is the most amazing way to get introduced to a lightsaber. Because think about it.
You're talking about the sail barge.
Exactly. Because think about it.
Okay.
In the first movie, he turns it on and kind of waves around like an idiot. He looks at the end of it like a dumbass before turns it on. Most people
got their food out of his teeth with it,
and then two old men are just like very clumsily like brr, brr, like fighting. That's most people's introduction to a lightsaber. My introduction is just that. He's about to be executed in this little vagina with teeth pit at the bottom of the sand, and like all of a sudden his little robot sidekick kid throws it out of his head and he grabs it and he starts cutting people up. When I saw that as a kid, I was like, that is amazing. That is awesome. A laser sword, that is incredible. And then him just going ham on all these people, and you have Han trying to save Lando and all these, and Leia with the little metal bikini choking the hell out of Jabba and just helping, destroy the barge, the thing that they're on, sail barge.
Great scene.
The whole sequence is amazing. It's just like, it is such a perfectly constructed scene. If that was just a short film, that would be the most perfect short film ever. Luckily, it's just the first act of an amazing movie.
First act, yep.
Yeah.
So very important too, coming from Empire with Han and the Carbonite, and then these are the attempt that they have to make to rescue their friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great way to lead. I think all three of these movies have great introductions, and
exactly.
Like I said, that some people find the pacing an issue and stuff. I don't. I think it's good.
I understand.
Empire is great, and then this. So I don't know.
I mean, I can understand that on the pacing issue for the reasons I already described for this film, but also on your point with the lightsaber fights too. I mean, like, it's really down to the emotionality. When people say like, "What's the best lightsaber fight?" I always think like, are you talking about on a technicality standpoint? Because the prequels have some really good lightsaber fights, but at the same time, it's just like you're just seeing a bunch of fancy flips and things like that. But there's no emotionality in those scenes at all. At least in my opinion, there could be some disagreements here and there, but in watching those films, I'm like, I feel nothing. I'm like, this is a fun little ballet dance you're doing, but
that's a combination of the film too. The film is the prequels. You don't have that emotion with the prequels because that's the failure of those films.
The story sucks. Yes,
storytelling. Yeah, the storytelling. But I mean, there's no doubt that the choreography of the prequels and the fighting a lightsaber sequence is superb. It's fantastic.
Even some of the sequels, there's some good lightsaber fights in there too. But the thing is,
True, that's true too.
But the thing is, it's like
prequels really did a good job on that.
Yeah,
probably
but
one
like,
of the only positive things I can say about them.
Yeah, but that's what people probably mean when they say the best lightsaber fights. Like, well, who shows off the best? I'm like, to me, the best lightsaber fights goes into what you already said. It's the emotionality of the scene.
The emotion, yeah, exactly.
I mean, because even the worst lightsaber fight, even the worst lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Vader in the first movie, it's still good in the sense where it's just like, this is where Obi-Wan dies and Luke is by himself.
It's powerful. It's magic, right?
It is. From a story standpoint, it's still a good scene. On a technical standpoint, it sucks. But and especially since they were operating off the logic of like, okay, these lightsabers are really heavy. They're like 30 pounds or something, and you have to really like take your time and lumberly like swing at them. All right, go. And you, I know, David, you can't see in your mask, but try to do your best, okay? It's just like
David Prowse, by the way.
David Prowse, exactly. The man in the suit. So it's just like there were a lot of problems already with that first movie. Yeah. And of course, by the second one, it's just like, you know what? Forget everything I said in the first movie. Let's just make it better. So that's why Empires is better. But also in Empires, it's more intense, because of the fact that, it's Vader.
Make it more intense.
Make it more, faster, more intense. But it's like you already said, the emotionality of the scene is like Vader's fighting his son. He cuts off his son's hand and tells him, "I am your father." That is the impact of that one. And by Jedi, it's just like
that sums up Empire, man. Like,
that
is the most
exactly.
Empire is such a bloody good movie that is so huge. When we weren't around when that hit theaters, but
you can feel the impact reverberated throughout all the other films.
Always,
not just Star Wars films in general, but. Yeah, but when you get to Jedi, I mean, I feel like the fight choreography is the best, but also I feel like the emotionality, the potency of the emotional weight of that scene is the best as well. Because you have Luke, who's a better fighter, he's a Jedi Knight now, not just a trainee, not a Padawan. He's coming against Vader again, and now he's just like, listen, man, I want to turn you back into the light side. You are my father. And Vader's like, son, I am a foregone conclusion. I want you here because you need to join me as my son to rule the whole galaxy in this empire. So there's a conflict of interest already, but Luke is like as stubborn as his father. Like, I'm not going to do that. And it takes Vader taunting him with the sister thing where Luke, as you said, taps into the dark side, cuts off Vader's hand. And then that's when he's just like, you know what? And Palpatine comes down. He's just like, good. Now you are mine. And Luke's like, you know what? You. I'm not going to be in the dark side. I'm not going to do that. You're going to have to kill me where I stand. And like a gangster. And Palpatine's like, all right, I'll take you up on that. And zaps him. Culminates to Vader just like throwing him down the shaft. And I hate that scene where in the newer editions, you're just like,
well, you're talking about the special edition.
Yeah, but we're going to get into that. We're going to get into all that stuff. But
But even Luke, when you're talking about Luke, I mean, just this film, the journey, the growth of the character, crossing the threshold, the effect he has on the events. I mean, it's great.
Yeah,
Lucas did such a great job with this film. Lucas and team and many people. It's also interesting, when you look at Luke, honestly, right? He told Obi-Wan, "Look, I can't destroy Vader. He's my father. I can't do it."
Yeah,
and he didn't. Right? He didn't. He couldn't. He could if he wanted to, but instead he chose to save him. No one thought Vader could be saved. Obi-Wan didn't think that. Yoda didn't think that. They were more in line of like, do it. Kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill Vader. Kill him. And also you can't blame them for that too. It's Darth Vader. It's Anakin. They know him.
Yeah.
This is what he became. There's no going back. You have to stop him. You have to destroy him. Luke was the only one who realized that, look, this guy can be saved.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah, he did it. He eventually did it. It's funny that Yoda's like 900 some years old, and he's like, I don't think he can be turned. Kill him. It's just like, come on. In all your years.
No, destroy him, you must.
No, can destroy him. Yeah, that's the only thing.
900 years of living, and that's the only conclusion you come to. There's no other way.
Yoda was probably more like the Emperor, like you have to destroy this to destroy the Emperor, which is the real threat.
I guess so. He was thinking probably of a tactical
Yoda was always
perspective.
Looking at the big picture, right? So yeah.
Maybe not. And plus, he'd been living in a hut in a swamp for a while, so he's probably out of touch with what was going on.
Eating those mushrooms that they have on Dagobah.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, but like
But
you're all good.
you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the movie space battles are dope.
Oh, they're the best. In this
Even the
film.
scenes when you find out the Death Star is operational, wipes out that
yeah.
ship. Like, oh shit,
Oh,
dude,
that
that
whole-
scene.
That scene is amazing. I mean, like,
Oh, good.
it all
man.
makes sense too, because you have like a fleet that's cornered by the Empire's fleet, the Rebel fleet cornered by the Empire fleet. And you're just like, man, they could just destroy them at any point, but they're just being used as pawns for the Emperor to show Luke, like, listen, man, everything's going bad for
Exactly.
you. I guess you're gonna have to go to the
Exactly
dark
it.
side. I mean, you got to type in that hatred. You know what I mean? You know, it's just
That's
like,
what Emperor says. He even says it in this film. Like,
Yeah.
everything that I've done, it's because I've decided to be this way.
I think because he
although
had a
in New Hope-
vision.
In New Hope is not accurate because I don't think he expected the Death Star to be destroyed the first time. So that's
Yeah.
just Emperor Palpatine or Sidious's his arrogance.
Yeah,
You know, like, oh, everything is my way. Yeah, pretty much everything you did. And now that we know the prequels and all that, yes, you had this great plan in your mind, and it happened, and all that, and
Yeah.
Senator and all this,
now
and
it's
Chancellor
down.
or
It's
whatever.
in pieces. Well, even Yoda says it in Empire. It's just like you can sense the future, but it's not a very clear future. Like
true.
anything could happen. So you could
That's
probably
true. Yeah.
reasonably expect or reasonably assume that Palpatine probably knew that certain events were going to occur, but it's just like, well, I'll lose a Death Star, but I could potentially gain a brand new apprentice.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So-
yeah. In Legends and EU, there's a lot of literature on that for sure.
It's a costly mistake,
Definitely.
but you know, that's a big gamble.
yeah.
And he lost that gamble anyway, so
We even know, Yoda even saw a lot of things with like Order 66. And
yeah,
so he
so,
saw a future of the, of that was,
yeah, premonition of things
grim
that,
to
that-
say,
yeah.
exactly. So
So I mean, like you can only wager on whatever you're able to see because there are different futures that you could possibly see, and you have to hedge your bets on what's likely going to happen. Yeah, so I mean, you can even say that they probably had foresight that you have to destroy Vader, and Vader was destroyed, but probably not in the way that they imagined. There was still a redemption arc for Anakin at the end that they didn't foresee. They just knew that Vader was going to be destroyed somehow, and Luke was going to destroy Vader. And you can make an argument that he did destroy Vader, he saved Anakin.
that's correct. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah, I mean,
that's the
it's
brilliance
exactly
of the film too. That's why I love Jedi, not because just the Ewoks.
Well, Vader
and
was
stuff,
gone
but-
because literally he's gone. And then because that's why you see the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker.
yeah, at the end, definitely. But like but that's
Unless
like,
another special edition changes or whatever.
yeah, we're
so-
gonna get into that stuff in just a moment. But I just want to round off like a lot of the story
Yes,
stuff. Especially like another thing that that they really f***ed up on this one was the whole Obi-Wan Kenobi thing when he comes back and he's trying to explain himself why he didn't tell him he was his father in the very beginning.
Right, point of view.
The point of view that's such a cop-out pussy bullshit. I'm okay. Come on, listen, dude. What you could have said, I don't know why they went this route, but what they could have said was just like, no, Luke, I was going to tell you eventually. I didn't want to overwhelm you with the truth that this dictator that's been killing people left and right is in fact your father. I want to ease into it, but I unfortunately passed before I could. And I was trying to find the right opportunity, and it might as well be now. Something like that. I've been like, all right, listen, he intended to tell you.
Hey man,
and-
they couldn't afford Alec Guinness for that long. Come on.
Oh, yeah, they had to cut it really short. Be like, listen, Luke, that's the truth, and you're going to have to deal with it. Eat my shit and die.
Luke, these aren't the droids I'm looking for, and you're not the Jedi Knight I'm looking for either. Peace out.
Peace out. Peace out.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you, sir.
I don't know. Obi-Wan just comes across as an asshole to me when he does that, but
Well,
I don't know. It is what it is, right? I
guess
guess.
there's definitely a way to look at it. It's definitely inconsistent,
Yeah, very.
right? Especially coming from A New Hope, right? Where he's telling them, dropping all this knowledge, all this truth.
Yeah.
So why are you like, it's just fear? Are you afraid that he's not going to be able to handle this information? I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's the brilliance of his performance in the first
I'm
film.
afraid you're going to the dark side, Luke.
But there's a nuanced performance when he tells him about his father in the first film, which is brilliant on his part because they were able to play so much off of it. Because when he asks him about his father, there's a moment of hesitation, and then he tells him in a very careful, calculated way. And you know that the reading was more meant, the performance was more meant about like, well, I'm about to tell him how his father fucking died, so let me just ease into this. I think that was the original approach. But now with this new information, now you can read that scene as, oh, his father's Vader. How can I say this? He was a great pilot, and Vader killed him. Yeah, that's what happened.
The great pilot. He was a good friend.
He was a great friend. We fought in the Clone Wars, which will be.
And then later he's
adapted.
like, only a master of evil, Darth.
Only a master of evil, Darth. All these great lines. But yeah, I mean, I love that ending too.
A lot of great lines, even in this movie too.
Oh, there are a lot of iconic lines, a lot of iconic things in this film. No
This
different
line,
from
I
the
always
last
felt.
two.
I feel like there's a lot more humor in this movie where it shouldn't be.
Like what?
I don't know if you think that's the case, but I don't know if it's coming
Give me-
from the darkness of Empire.
Give
But
me specifics.
I like some of them. There's some pretty funny moments. Like I remember at one point Luke says something like to Han, he's like, "I used to live here, you know," and Han's like, "Well, you're gonna die here, right?"
Oh, well, that's acceptable.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that. But so here's another minor complaint that some people have, and I actually kind of agree. If you look at many ways how the two previous films, right, Princess Leia isn't as significant in this film in many ways, right? I think all the characters are central, right? They're all central component. I mean, without a doubt, our heroes are components to the film. I think there's a complaint for some people that Princess Leia is not as significant in this film, right? In previous two, especially in the first film and the second one too, right? You see her take more a central position, a great leadership position, and taking action too. In A New Hope, she's the one taking action. You know, she's the one who saves them in many ways to get out of there.
Well, yeah, the same.
Compactor scene, all that. So
It still happens.
so the
in this
argument
film.
can be made that in this film she kind of takes a step back
I don't
or
think
two
so.
in this film,
I don't really
and even
see
Han
that.
Solo to some degree as well. The only thing is Han Solo couldn't see so well in the first act or two, so his vision not so good. So
I don't.
I
Yeah.
think there's an argument to be made that some roles were diminished to some degree, maybe not to a great degree, but to some degree.
Everyone had their part. That's all I could say about that. I mean, Leia still
Everyone
choked out.
definitely had their part.
I mean, Leia still choked out Jabba. You know, she still did that. She still
in the beginning,
led,
yeah, in first,
she
yeah,
led
you're
Luke.
right.
I
That's
mean,
huge, yeah.
she was the one who got Luke and Han out of the situation they were in with the Ewoks and help get them all together to help fight against the Empire. That was her role primarily. You know, it's just like there's still little things. It wasn't as much maybe as the other two films probably, but there's still pretty significant things that happen in the film.
Yeah.
Even little moments.
Fair, I agree.
You know, and like even with Han, yeah, maybe he didn't do as much stuff because, you know, now Lando has the Falcon and he was doing all the cool stuff. But honestly, Lando didn't do too much in Empire too. So I think it's great that he was able to go and fight in the fleet. Otherwise, what would Lando have done?
True,
Pretty
yeah.
much next to nothing, right? So, and that's another thing too. Yeah, chill on Cloud City, basically, yeah. And the thing I like about this film too, that I didn't really notice too much, maybe subconsciously I did notice, but now as an adult I notice it more. There's more diversity in this film, a little bit more diversity in terms of the casting. Like when you look at the fleet in the first film, they're basically all white, right? And
Right.
when it comes to Cloud City, I mean, Lando's pretty much the only black guy there, as far as I'm aware. But when you get into Return of the Jedi, some of the fighter pilots, the rebel pilots, you know, there's like they're different ethnicities and things like that. So it feels like a little bit larger of a world going into this. Like it feels like all these people are fighting in it against, you know, space fascism, which is really fun. You know, it just feels like there's more of a team effort in place. You know, and that's something that upon revisiting the film, I'm just like, that's a nice touch. And of course, Lucas did that because he responded to the criticism of the first film was too white. And that hurt his feelings. That really hurt his feelings, actually. To the point where he ended up taking Lando.
It is very white. I mean,
it was, but like people were but they made it in a way where they're just like, they were saying like, this is a little racist. Which of course he's not. I don't believe he is. I mean, he probably has.
Of course not.
He probably has these stereotypes or whatever that he hangs on to. Plus, he was a product of his time as a child watching these things. Yeah. But you know, but still, I mean, he still had feelings.
He's definitely not a racist.
He's definitely not. So I mean,
anyone
like
who says that is dead wrong.
They're reaching too much. Yeah, so it's just like that's why Lando was originally written as a white man, and he made him into a black guy, and he claims that Han was going to be a black guy too. I don't know if that was going to be the case.
I don't know. But, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Lucas has also claimed so much that you can trace back and know that it's not right.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, but
we could talk about an hour on those things.
On the discrepancies of George Lucas. Yeah.
That's hours and hours.
Nonetheless, though, he listened to criticism and he made a greater effort to rectify that, and I feel like it benefited the film. That's my point.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Any criticism that we have with George Lucas is it's specific to certain things and not these type of things. Like,
Yeah, and everyone's got an opinion too from the Looking
so
Glass,
it's
and it's just like
yeah, exactly. Some people don't like the decisions he made on a creative level and the prequels or whatever it might be, and
yeah,
special editions and stuff. And I think those are all warrant. I mean, there's a lot of things that are warranted, and some are
yeah.
but we just have people expressing opinions at the end of the day, and
But I feel like when it came to this film, especially, as much criticism as it does get on those story points that we mentioned, I feel like he made a lot of the right decisions. Like, I mean, he had his team of writers and the producer at the time. At least in the previous film, he wasn't brought back Gary Kurtz for this one. We were just like, you got to kill some people, and it's got to end really dark and morbid. And I'm like, why? And George had the right wherewithal to be like, no, I'm not doing that. Eat my ass. It's just like, good, yeah. I mean, like, I don't understand the
sound
lot.
like something you would say.
I think he allegedly he would say that.
Yes,
Don't sue me,
yes.
Mr. Lucas. But but I feel like he really made a lot of the right decisions with this. It's just like, why end it that way? This is a feel good series. It should end feel good, and it did end feel good. Yeah, there were casualties along the way, but that's war. You're gonna have casualties, but not the main characters. They got to survive all the way to the end. So
Yeah, I mean, the argument can be. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made. I mean, obviously, there's other creators that felt otherwise.
they're wrong.
So that certain directors and producers and other people thought that, okay, what about this sequence? Why doesn't this person die here? Okay, Lucas
Yeah.
was like, no,
No,
my heroes aren't going to die.
my
No,
heroes are my
and
heroes. They're my action figures. They will not go in the microwave and be melted down.
and some people did melt them down.
Yeah, some people did.
So,
Ryan Johnson. Anyway.
yes. I can name a few others too. Yeah, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Couple things I wanted to point out. All right. One thing is Jabba the Hutt's annoying ass pet.
Oh,
Salacious Crumb, right?
Salacious Crumb. Yeah. I like
I hate that
Salacious
thing.
Crumb.
I hate it. You know what it reminds me of?
Hmm.
You know who Joe Cox is?
No, I don't think so.
If you heard who that was, you would know. It's from I'll give you a clue. Paul Verhoeven movie that came out in '87.
Basic Instinct.
RoboCop.
Oh, my bad.
So that character Joe Cox who laughs, high pitched laugh, totally reminds me of that.
Oh,
So
well,
it's even extra irritating.
I guess. I mean, Salacious Crumb's supposed to be a chord jester, though.
Yeah, and it's the same high frequency laugh as Joe in RoboCop. So
Oh, it doesn't annoy me at
I would
all.
like it.
Yeah.
I hate it. But anyways,
I don't know.
yeah,
It's fine. I like it. It's cool.
and it's several times, right? So
But to me, it's a Muppet. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, look, it's a Muppet. I love it.
True.
And to this day, I'm like, oh, it's a Muppet. I love it. So maybe it's a personal preference. I just love Muppets, That's my thing, I guess.
some Muppets, but all right. One thing I gotta say. Obviously, everyone finds that Yoda scene is very sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the music when he dies, dude, those two notes, right,
Mm-hmm.
make you feel the emotion. At least every time I watch it, and I feel like this time I've seen this movie so many times,
Yeah.
and maybe this time I felt this movie even more emotional than others. Maybe because I'm old then, and old. I'm really old. I got gray and shit.
We're both close to death. Yes.
Close to death. We're going to die.
Yeah, we're gonna
We're
die
gonna
one day. Yeah.
So one day, next week. Okay. You're on your own, Yankee.
Oh no. No. No.
But no, I mean that the music. Obviously, we know. I mean, John Williams. We know what to expect. But those notes when
That's Yoda's
Yoda's body
Yoda's thing,
disappears.
right?
Yes, it's so amazing, man. It's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely the most emotional film of the trilogy. I don't think it's the best movie. I think Empire's the best movie.
Yeah, we covered
New
that.
Hope's my favorite. Yeah,
Yeah, we covered
So-
that. That's just
this is my basically Return of the Jedi is my least favorite of the original trilogy, but it's bloody good. Of course, I'm a big fan of the movie.
Yeah, when it comes to the Yoda's death scene, yeah, it's good. It's pretty good. I don't know. I don't think I have the same feelings as you do with that. I'm like, well, it's a scene that needs to happen, but then then we got to move on. You know, I want to move on to the next phase of the film. I guess I was just impatient. I want to see Ewoks, and Yoda was getting in the way of that. I'm like, could you hurry up and die?
Okay. See? There you have it, y'all. Yankee is pro Ewok, and he don't like Yoda. And you see what I have to deal with, y'all?
It's funny. You just said that, you know, Salacious Crumb is annoying, but then Yoda's got that.
Yeah, but he's only in it for like. He's also the Grandmaster of the Jedi, or
and you can't hear what he's saying in the last few lines. There is. Like what?
Yeah,
What'd you say? There's another cookie in the pantry. What's going on? Oh, damn it!
How dare you, sir? Once again, how dare you?
I am so
dare
disrespectful.
You disrespect
Sacrilegious.
Master Yoda.
Yeah, it's a good scene. All jokes aside, and I think the
good scene it is. You say?
Yeah, good scene it is. You were just making fun of me and laughing.
but like
Talking mad shit on you.
You're talking. You must mad.
Before we move on, I do want to quickly touch on the because you said Yoda's scene is like emotional and stuff. Luke burning Vader's body is really emotional. Like that is just like, especially as a kid.
It is, yeah.
As a kid, just watching this scene for the first time, watching this movie for the first time, and I barely getting the gist of what's going on, you know. And the brilliant thing about this film is that even though it's a third of a series and it feels like you're like at the end of the movie because you're at the end of the movie and stuff, it still felt like a whole complete story that by the end it still felt sad to me. Even though I barely knew who Vader was, I was barely introduced to him as a character, I still felt for Luke at the end, you know, because like this was his dad he had to put down and burn. And the music motif for that scene is just brilliant, which is the Two Sons theme, but it still works here.
It does, yeah.
It's
incredible.
It's an incredible scene, but also probably my whole favorite scene. There are a lot of favorite scenes in this for me. My favorite scene, though, in Return of the Jedi, it all comes down to the fleet. Lando Calrissian and the Falcon with his Y-Wings and X-Wings and B-Wings and medical frigates and all that stuff. All of them waiting for Han and the group to do their thing, blowing up that little satellite dish thing. All right, we're going to go into that Death Star. And that Death Star, listen, I know people have issues with it. They're just retreading old ground from the first movie. I get that. There's a lot of great things to say about that first, you know, Death Star battle scene, the Battle of Yavin scene. I'm sorry, the Battle of Endor, that is a way better fight scene. I don't care if it's retreading on old ground, it is way better. Technically, it's beautifully constructed. I love the fact that you're going through all the scaffolding and all that stuff. You go right into the middle of the Death Star, like you're just going into it, and you have TIE fighters behind you, and like, oh my god, and it's so tight. It's kind of stupid to fly the Falcon in this thing. Honestly, with the amount of space you have to deal with, it's still a thrilling scene. It's crazy, but it's beautiful. It's so beautiful, and it's death-defying. It's thrilling. Every time I watch that, I always feel so excited. When I first saw that as a kid, I was like, this is amazing. And when you get into the middle and they blow it and then, all right, we got to get it out. My God, the flight to get the hell out of that Death Star before it completely explodes. Yeah. I can't describe the feeling. I can't describe the feeling when I first saw it. I can't describe the feeling when I saw it today before we started doing this podcast. Yeah. It's the same. Incredible. It's incredible all around. Yeah.
It's also, I mean, part of that is because the Death Star wasn't even fully completed.
Yeah.
So that's why we are given this opportunity to kind of navigate through it, through the construction.
Exactly.
Kind of go there and see.
And it felt
at this
new.
point and fly out. And it was new.
It was new, but it felt new because again, you're retreading on old ground.
Was already completed before us. So.
Yeah, before, yeah, but you're retreading on old ground because we've seen
it was new, and they also killed a whole bunch of civilians.
Well, yeah, but that was going to be the case no matter what.
Insert Kevin Smith clerks.
Exactly. Independent contractors. Well, they knew what they were getting into. That was the point of that. So, yes. But nonetheless, though, I mean, like it was old ground that they were retreading on, but they presented it in a brand new fashion, which is like, well, you didn't see the inside of the thing. Let's see the inside of the thing, and like that's brilliant. I'm sorry, that's just amazing. And of course, before we get into the special edition changes, I do want to end with saying I love the ending. Afterwards too, I love Yub Nub. I love that little Ewok song, Yub Nub. And people hate that song for some reason. They're like, "This is a stupid way to end it," and you know, it's just like, no, it's not. This is great. The Ewoks help you defeat the Empire. They are essentially the Viet Cong in this, and they're celebrating. You're celebrating on their home planet. This is their song. This is their celebration song. You know, it's in their language, and it segues into the, you know, the crescendo of the traditional end theme beautifully.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I love that. I was rocking out to that when I was a kid, and I still rock out to it as an adult. So it's just like it's
Yeah, but
great.
it's gone. They removed it.
No, we might as well talk about it. So yeah, so with the special edition
Sorry,
changes,
man.
yeah, with
I'm
the
sorry.
yeah, well, it's now a eulogy now. So yeah, with the special edition changes in particular, that's one of the ones that it's unforgiven to me. Listen, I understand that the Empire being destroyed, the Emperor being dead, and all that stuff. Yeah, you would want to see that celebration
he comes
extended to
back
different
later.
planet. Huh? Oh, you know,
Comes back later.
we're not
Apparently.
talking about that. No. for all intents and purposes, he's dead in this one.
Oscar Isaac even said in that one movie, he was
Somehow,
like, the Emperor is back somehow.
he came back. I don't know. I don't know. He just kind of came out of nowhere, you know.
He there.
But anyway, but with the special edition in this one, yeah, I mean, like, you get to see all the different planets celebrating the end of the Empire, and that's cool, I guess, and stuff. But what I absolutely hated was that fucking song that they replaced Yub Nub with. What is that Enya fucking, like, new age music shit? What is that? That's horrible. It didn't feel like Star Wars to me. It just felt like some sort of like adult contemporary CD that I dusted off in my parents' room and started playing and be like, ew, what is this? With the flutes and shit, the Yanni stuff.
Yanni.
That's what it sounds like. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I don't know. We can add it to a list of things that they changed that we don't like, you don't like, I don't like, I don't.
But it sucks. That's my point. I hate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
bring back Yud Nub. It was good as it was.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the music, I mean, they already changed the music in Jabba's Palace. Pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That was already bad. But whenever I watch these films, I only watch the original ones. I do not watch the special editions. I refuse, especially this film. I'm so disappointed because when I saw this film in theaters, it was in '97 and it was the special edition. You know, and I was like, this is my favorite one. I can't wait. And then when I saw it, I was like, what the hell?
You were like, what
Yeah.
happened?
I was so disappointed. I knew it was going to be different, but I didn't know it was going to be bad. You know, that was just so jarring. So because of this film, when I heard they were going to make the next ones, like the Phantom Menace and all that, I was like already skeptical as a then I think 13-year-old boy. You know, I was just like, I saw what they did a couple of years back, so I don't know what they're going to do now. So
I don't blame you. Yeah.
I was cautious, very cautious. Because in Jabba's Palace, it's just like that. I mean, it's very antiquated. It was like, you could tell it was like an 80s theme inspired song, like that song that they were playing, like, or whatever. And then the new one, it was more big band and jazzy, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, they changed the song. It's now called Jedi Rocks, I think, right? That was the 97 one that they
But the song doesn't sound like it belongs in Star Wars. That's my big hang up with it. That new one that they put in. Whereas the other one prior, it's like, this is kind of disco sounding. Like, this is already borderline, like, shouldn't belong in Star Wars, but I'll let it slide. You know, so
I mean, the music scene at Jabba's Palace already is ridiculous. Even back in the day, in '83, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about it. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's goofy originally, which is fine, though, right? But once again, Lucas finds a way to make things worse.
In a way.
Whether it was Mos Eisley and Tatooine or whatever, or do you hope it that, you know, some things are good, some things are bad, these changes, right? So I always felt like the first part, just the music and the dancing with, like, Ula. Was that her name? Ula?
I think so. The lady that bites the dust later in the Rancor pit.
Yeah, with the Rancor. Yeah. I'm pretty sure her name is Ula. With the music and Ula dancing in the original film in '83, I would say that one of the special edition actually improved one portion of that. The only problem is, like we said earlier, the additional Jedi Rock sequence. When they changed the song and then they added the additional sequence, I can't stand that. It's horrible. It's obnoxious. I always thought it takes me out of the movie, you know. It hurts the movie for sure, you know.
Yeah.
And I would say that what occurred in Jabba the Hutt's palace, I think, are some of the worst changes that Lucas ever made in the 3 movies of the original trilogy. He made a couple bad decisions in every movie, and he made some good ones, right? I think this was one of them.
I think the worst changes are in Return of the Jedi because there's that sequence we just described.
That's this movie, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also the Sarlacc pit itself. He added a beak for some reason.
True. That's also true. Yeah,
Why would you do that? It's already freaky enough that there's like a hole there that you fall into and it's got tentacles and stuff. That's freaky enough, but the beak just doesn't add anything to it.
Even before that, though, going back to Jabba's palace, the change of the music from the original song and with the Ula dancing to Jabba, they changed that. They added more people. And you should like the new ones because you're a puppet guy, right? And I like some puppets, but you're a puppet guy.
What puppets are in
they
there?
added way more puppets.
Did they?
They're all performing the song. The band is all puppets, right?
Yeah,
So-
they get the same
so-
people from the same aliens from the cantina are now playing in Jabba's palace now.
Yeah,
that what you're
we
referring
call
to?
it Max Rebo band, but
Yeah, the Max
But,
Rebo. Wait, yeah, well that's Max Rebo's band, but I'm talking about the players from the cantina from the first movie.
oh, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that they played the opening notes like dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But like,
Either way, you know what? The music sequence is what's problematic. You add in the Timon and Pumbaa dude. I don't know what his name is, but
Yeah, I know.
he has
and
little,
I know you're
his
talking
little
about
solo
like
too, and
the
he
little
comes up
honey,
screen.
the little honeycomb monster thing. Yeah.
You know,
And then you can see his little.
and he comes up into the screen, and
Yeah, he's just you can see the spit like lines and stuff, like the saliva lines, and you're just like, I don't need to see any of this. This is not.
I mean,
not
look,
cool.
look. They 83. They made Jabba's palace a very strange, odd place. Right?
Yeah,
There
it
was some theatrics, some music, all this. It was fine. It worked.
I'm gonna make it mine. Yeah, but
Pet the father.
But the thing is, it's just like it's not just the song that's bad for that because it's big band-ish, but it's just more like
Right.
it's all CGI too. Yeah, there may have been
CG,
maybe
yes.
there's just some extra puppets in there too, but it gets lost in the whole minutia of the CGI dreadful crap that they threw in there because like that alien singer starts walking around and goes ooh ah ee, ah, ooh ooh.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
exactly.
And I'm like, this is terrible. Why do they do this?
It's awful. And honestly, this is also what causes, and it makes my rating of the film go down. Quite frankly,
Oh,
the
for the
movie's
special
a
edition,
good movie.
maybe.
It's a great movie, and yes, of course. And by the way, but there's also a special edition. Oh no, there's a scene that's not a special edition that I also don't like. Is in Jabba's palace. The shot outside. Remember they have a outside scene of.
You're talking about that
Jabba's
little
palace.
toad thing that gets the bug in the first one?
It's a wart. It's called it's a wart. It's called
Okay.
wart.
I don't know
And
the
it eats
creature's name.
it eats some. Yeah, I think it's called a wart. I'm almost positive. It eats some frog or something, and then it burps or something.
Yeah.
The random creature. What a way to ruin the bloody scene.
I
You have
don't-
this thing on the side.
I don't even remember
You
what they
had the
replaced it with.
palace. No, it's not a special edition. It was in the original film. That's how bad it was.
No, but
They just
Oh.
enhanced it even more. I think.
that's
what Lucas
that's
was
what I'm saying. I don't know what they did differently. Is what I'm saying.
No, this wasn't actually a special edition. I think they just upgraded the graphics, CGI.
The
such a
CGI. They
distracting
CGI'd
scene.
that scene, is what you're saying.
I don't know what they did.
They did something.
It was the original movie '83. That scene sucks. That's what I'm saying. Even in the original, it sucks.
Oh,
And it
well, I don't
sucks.
agree with you there. I
It
liked it
just-
just fine the way it was.
Don't lie. Do you what?
No, I remember the scene. That's why I'm able to recall it because I like that scene. That little,
Okay.
yeah. Because when you described it, I was like, I
It's
knew
a horror-
exactly what
it's
you
a-
were talking about. I was like, oh yeah,
It's
I
a
remember
horrible
that.
scene.
Nah,
It's a horrible scene because
agree.
you see Jabba's palace from the outside. You see Tatooine from the outside. You see the two suns, sun and setting. It's a very nice scene
Mhm.
sequence. And then in the bottom left corner, you get distracted because some creature is catching a frog to eat or something.
Because
and
it's
then it
hungry.
bursts.
It's hungry.
It's stupid. I don't like it.
I don't agree. I think it's great. It adds to the whole.
I think it's stupid.
It adds to the
Yeah.
life of the scene. I feel because this is another creature doing its thing.
You didn't need a scene. It's an outdoor shot of what was occurring inside, which was very important. It was pertinent to the story and that first chapter and everything. And this is just a sequence outside.
Eh,
Landscape. This
world
is what you're
building.
seeing. That's-
world building. That's what I call it. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I
I
like it
don't
fine.
know.
It's not like it was dancing and saying "Hello, my baby, hello, my." No, that would have been a little bit too much, but yeah, or that stuff from the special editions of the
Yeah, I don't
spaceport
know.
where you had the little
This
robot
could
going
have been a
thunk.
special edition scene, though. It could have
Yeah.
been one.
It would have been okay if they inserted it if it didn't exist before, but then they added it later. I would have been like, this is all right. But I'm fine with it. I grandfathered in the scene. I'm gonna make excuses for it. So
Fair enough.
yeah.
So Vader, the no scene.
Oh,
No
what?
reminds me of laughing in the theater when episode 3 came out.
I laughed too when I
Yeah.
heard that. That was horrible. So I'm like,
In episode 3, you laughed too?
I laughed out loud so hard. And when I started laughing, people started laughing.
Yeah.
Because everyone
Yeah.
was dead quiet for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
So the first second it happened, and then I started laughing, and everyone realized, like, this is absurd. We will laugh too.
Yeah,
This isn't one of those moments where I'm all like, and then everyone stood up and clapped. No, it actually happened. It's just like
Yes.
and maybe these days it wouldn't happen. People would probably be like, when I saw this when I was 6, it was great. I love it now as a 20-year-old, 26-year-old, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but I saw this thing when I was already a grown-ass adult, and I thought it was absurd then. To have that moment inserted in Return of the Jedi, I wasn't about to have that. I was like, this is horrible. Why did they do this? And they didn't do that, and I think in the original special edition, I think they did it later, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I mean, the special editions came out in 97. This was added to the 2000. This was 2011 or 2011 DVD release.
Like the Blu-ray or DVD
something, or
release.
Blu-ray
yeah,
one,
something like that.
I mean, he was always making changes up until the very end.
Well, the point is that it wasn't added until later, because I did not see that in the 1997 release. It wasn't
in 97.
Yeah, it was fine when I was seeing it in the theaters at that point. But then when I saw that scene later in one of those later releases, I was like, why did you do this? Like, it was just so frustrating to see.
It doesn't make sense. It's I don't know what, once again, I don't know what he was thinking. I always felt that scene carried its own weight. What physically was occurring on the screen was very powerful.
Yeah.
He's looking back and forth. He's like, obviously he's conflicted. We already know that character development. And he makes the decision to grab the Emperor and throw his ass.
You're making my son toasty. I do not like that. Yeah.
You don't need words to, no, in one word. No.
He did it twice. He was like, no.
Twice. Yeah. You don't need that.
Yeah.
So this was some sort of stupid connection that he tried to do, that he did at the end of episode 3 when Anakin was in the Vader suit and he's asking about Padme, and Emperor's like, you killed her. And he's like, no.
Because at the end of the day, he is an angsty teenager, even till the day he died.
It's nonsense. It's rubbish.
It's terrible. I think
so.
If I were to kind of rationalize that scene, I think what he tried to, I think the reason he did that, not to just tie it to the prequels, but also because I guess he got caught up with the idea of, like, you can't see Vader's emotion through the mask. So therefore I have to add it on and make it even more ham to make it more obvious that there's an internal turmoil going on. But I'm like, bro, you don't need to do that. You could see through Prowse's movements that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
That's all you need. You don't need more than that. That is perfectly fine the way it was.
But he changed it.
Bastard.
I mean,
Don't call me a bastard. I came from a very good household.
Episode 3, I laughed at this part too. I mean, because I don't remember watching this. This wasn't back in the day.
I was more angry when I saw that. I was more angry when I saw that.
I haven't seen this movie with that added because it came out in the Blu-ray thing, 2011. So I was like, oh, no.
Another thing too that they added later on is that the Ewoks blinked. Yeah, but those Ewoks blinking, that was a much later thing that he did. But I'm like, well, you didn't.
That's a minor thing, though.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying, if anything. But it's just like I
thought it was unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. Like, I understood why, but at the same time, it's just like, just leave it alone. This looks clearly photoshopped when you do it. Like, this is not going to look any better when you manipulate it further. So, and I think he did that with one of the other aliens, and I don't know if it was in that film or one of the other films. I don't know if it was Greedo or something, but. Or maybe I'm thinking of a fan edit. I don't know. But, like, I know for sure they did that in the official release with the Ewoks. And I was like, don't do that, dude. Don't do that.
Right.
What other ones?
Don't do it. And then he did it.
Yeah. You don't tell me what I should and shouldn't do. It's my movie.
They told him, don't put Jar Jar in it. And he was like, no.
I'll do what I want.
He's going to be Darth Jar Jar one day.
Darth Jar Jar.
Well, if those are, I think we covered all the major special edition changes, so we can wrap up with the last one. You can lead with that one.
What are you talking about? Force Ghosts?
Yeah,
You talking about Force
them
Ghosts?
Force Ghosts, man.
Yeah, Anakin Skywalker's ghost joined Yoda, Obi-Wan at the end. Used to be Sebastian Shaw, who was the actor.
Yeah,
And so yeah, they changed it and they added Hayden Christensen.
yeah.
Well, actually, there's two scenes. There's also the celebration sequence in all the cities, but the ghost sequence is what we're talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people like it. I think it actually, this is one thing that a lot of people are favorable to.
I don't agree with it.
I don't agree with it either. I don't like
Yeah.
it. I feel bad for Sebastian Shaw. I was like, it also
Well-
makes sense why it is that, because that for a moment, Vader wasn't Vader, right? I'm not saying he became a Jedi or anything, obviously not. But he was, I don't know. I think it makes sense what it was. I understand why they changed it to Hayden Christensen.
I mean,
Obviously, as always, connecting the prequels. That's what George wants to do.
of course. Of course. I still don't like it because he became Anakin right before he died, arguably.
He became Anakin once again, yes.
He became Anakin when he threw the Emperor down that shaft.
Yep. I think that's a very powerful thing, right?
He did so. I mean, like, unless he magically could warp into his younger self, that scene makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, the argument that they'll make is that was what he looked like in his form before he turned to the dark side and became Vader.
Yeah, I know that.
That was
argument.
the last time he looked like.
I know that,
which
argument.
I understand, but that's
but-
based on knowing the prequels.
Yeah, but it still doesn't make sense because to me, a Force Ghost projection is to me based on what you last looked like after you die. That's the operating logic with that, and especially if you want to
based on what we're off.
Yeah, but if you want to insert that thing, I'm not saying you, but when people want to insert that thing, which is like, well, you're going back to your base form when you were at your most pure form, hence why you're a Force Ghost, because you're tapping into the light side of the Force in order to utilize this energy to reconstruct the image of yourself as you were. You're just a projection of what you were. So he was probably visualizing himself as he was last. I understand that, but you could still make that argument that he was Anakin when he killed the Emperor. He was Anakin when Luke took the helmet off. That was Anakin. And what he morphed into was the less messed up version of himself. He still had his hair and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, it still worked, and you could still tell it was Sebastian Shaw, the actor. And as far as the notable change right before then, I mean, they digitally took out the eyebrows as well. And I felt like that was
done, yes.
That was a change that makes sense. I'm like, all right, why would he have eyebrows? That makes no sense. That just seemed like an oversight. But in terms of that change, the Force Ghost, I just don't agree with it. It's just,
but you're also thinking of that based on knowing the prequels.
Listen, I could have loved Hayden Christensen in that role.
Why else would the eyebrows be an issue? Unless it was for the prequels and what happened on Mustafar.
Yeah. Well, because didn't his whole face burn in that scene?
No.
It burned off? No? He still had his eyebrows? I don't remember.
No, I mean, he lost his eyebrows. That's what I'm
okay.
saying. It's based off the prequels. Lucas changes these things, right?
Well, yeah, of course. But in that scene specifically, he's basically a burn victim, you know, or something messed up happened. So him losing his eyebrows digitally, I'm like, that's fine, I guess. I don't have too much qualms with that. I saw it with his eyebrows on, and I felt that was fine. But you take them away, and that's fine too. But the Force Ghost,
yeah. But the point is, he's changing those things after the prequels occurred, after Episode 3.
Yeah.
So then the argument could be made. Then, well, he already made these changes based off Episode 3. This is what happened to Anakin on Mustafar. He got burned up in his eyebrows too, man. So then why don't we just make him Anakin altogether as a Force Ghost?
I feel like those are two completely different things, though. So, I mean, it's like we
that
can
is the reason why he did it, though, right?
But we can pick and choose what we like, is what I'm saying. You know, because he still
has
had it's not like he digitally inserted Hayden Christensen's face on Sebastian Shaw. Like he deepfaked that crap on him. Like he could have, if he had the technology, he would have done that. Believe me, he would have. And that would have been horrible, you know. But hell, man, they could have just shot Hayden Christensen to be like, "Hey, Hayden, come over. We're gonna do a thing real quick. We're gonna put you in that makeup, and we're gonna insert you in Return of the Jedi right before you die." I'm like, he would have done that for sure, but
why don't people say that more often? He probably would have.
He probably would.
He would have done.
Yeah, it's without a doubt knowing what we know. But it's just like, but specifically with the eyebrow thing, it's just like I could take it or leave it. I don't have, because it's still Sebastian Shaw. You're just taking the eyebrows
Right.
off. You know, it's whatever.
It's fine.
But adding a whole different actor there is just like, okay, I mean, no, that's not my.
Yeah, and the final sequence on Endor when Luke sees the Force Ghosts, and I mean, it's a very nice scene. And I thought it was back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever, they changed it to Hayden. I don't agree with that. I think they should have kept Sebastian Staub.
At the end of the day, I have my means to watch the original trilogy whenever I want to, so I really can't complain. I don't need to watch it, and as a matter of fact, I don't have to watch it. So that could be a whole discussion. That'd be fun to have.
Yeah. And by the way, the other sequence we were talking about, deleted scenes, the ending, you see Naboo, Tatooine, Coruscant. Yeah, I mean, those scenes were obviously digitally inserted, and once again, trying to connect the prequel trilogy to this original trilogy. This it didn't really bother me that much, seeing Naboo, Tatooine, Coruscant. It's not necessary. It also, kind of makes you question like how much time has passed. I mean,
Yeah,
they just got back to Endor, and all this went down, and how much time has gone back. The whole galaxy is celebrating. Is it that quick?
I mean, I don't know how quickly news would travel. I imagine pretty fast.
I don't know.
That's my assumption. But it still looks like a PlayStation 2 graphic scene.
Yeah.
That's like that's partly why I don't like it. Also, because that song. On top of that,
the song and the CGI isn't the best either. But for the time, whatever.
Yeah, and now you got the Hayden Christensen thing, and
yeah, you're just adding on top of.
Yeah, so it's just like that's why that scene is atrocious to me, and I'm like, I would prefer not to remind myself that ever happened. That's just like no.
Yeah. It's all based off the prequels, right? Like, why do we have to connect it? I get it. You want to connect it to the prequels. I get that, but
the fact that it just looks so jarringly different from the rest of the film, that's where I have issues with it. It's just like if he had like props and things like that done for Coruscant and all these other planets, then it would have been much more effort. Yes. Would it probably look kind of off? Maybe so. It would have looked like it belonged though, because it looks like a real thing. But the fact that it looks like a PlayStation 2 cutscene, it's just like, what?
Exactly. Honestly, I mean, tell me, you think a lot of people watch that if they see that scene at the end? You think they can tell what? Oh, that's Tatooine. That's Coruscant. Oh, is that Naboo from Episode 1? Like, you think people can tell that? No.
I probably the regular person wouldn't, but the super fan definitely will. And I think this was sort of catered to those people.
Fan, maybe. Yeah, maybe a prequel fan. No, I've seen those prequel movies so many times. Like, it's clear to me. I know what I'm seeing. Naboo, Tatooine, Coruscant. Tatooine obviously being super important.
We so free!
And Naboo and Coruscant being prequel. And Coruscant's super important in Star Wars. But you have these sequences. Like, what do you think? Everyone knows what is going on? Like, that's not how people watch Star Wars. A lot of people watch the new ones without watching the old one.
It's no longer this insular little thing now where if you see the 3 movies, you're good. You're part of the cult. Now you got the prequels. Now you got the sequels. Now you got the TV shows. You got the books. You got the comic books. You have the video games. You have fan edits. You have fan stories. There's so much now where it's just like
the books, comics, and video games you've had.
The comic books, yes, yeah.
You've been having them for 35, 40 years. So
yeah, well, the comic books, yes, because they came out shortly after the first film. So there were video games, but they were very primitive. But even still, I mean, like they were still around the original trilogy. So now you have a whole different sections of fans for different eras, effectively. So now when I think of Star Wars as a whole, I guess this is a good way to wrap up the original trilogy. It's like, as a whole, this was the first phase of a much bigger thing, where now the fandom is so massive and huge and varied and diverse, where it's just like, it doesn't feel like it belongs to one fandom anymore. It's just one big collective, and we could disagree. And the different factions are always disagreeing on what's good and what's not. But in terms of the totality of this whole mess of a franchise at this point, that is Star Wars, it's, I would say I would like to shut off all the noise, not just concentrate on these 3 movies. You know, I mean, this is the purest form
I
of
mean,
filmmaking out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best film trilogy of all time, regardless of any revisions that have happened and whatnot. It's just because this whole series was made on the precipice that it was going to be filmed. It wasn't based on any book or any of that stuff. It wasn't an adaptation. This was made specifically for the film.
It was influenced by a lot of books and other things.
It was influenced,
Other
yes,
shows.
but it was not adapted, though. And that's
Not adapted. Correct.
that is the beautiful thing about this whole thing. So I mean, just like so, it really truly is the best trilogy of all time. I feel it doesn't get tiring no matter how many times I watch it. It's just beautifully constructed. The characters are amazing. The music's amazing. The effects are amazing. You know, it's a timeless masterpiece. You know, and even though we're talking about Jedi, this is just a perfect way to end the entire thing. I feel.
I mean, it doesn't get much more iconic than this. How damn memorable it is at so many levels, right?
Yeah.
So, this 3 movies. I mean, there's a reason why we're talking about it and why people talk about it. And it's generational. It's eternal. I mean, this is
Gonna outlive Georgie when he passes. You know, it's gonna outlive us when we pass. It's civilization could end, and aliens from a distant universe or a distant galaxy could come in, unearth these movies, and they're gonna be like, "What's this?" That will probably live on through them. They will probably
and then they see
understand
Jar Jar
narrative.
Binks in episode 1.
They'll
and they're
burn it
like,
all.
The species was not worth saving.
You know what? Now that we're done with Jedi,
Kidding, yo.
I think we're ready to talk about them prequels. What do you think?
Oh, we
What
are
do you
going
think?
into that, eh?
Yeah, we have to. We were going to.
No.
It is your destiny.
Hell no, I ain't got no disc.
All right, but before we get into all that big old mess, the previous ones I gave a 9. This is not going to be any different. This is also a 9. It is my favorite. I would edge it to a 9.5 like the first one. Maybe slightly higher than that. Maybe a little bit slightly higher because the aspects that are great in this film are just so great. Like I would say a 9.75 if I feel so inclined. But
9.7.
yeah, if
Okay.
I were to feel so inclined, because that's how amazing I feel that this film is, in spite of all its warts and all its faults and whatnot, on a narrative standpoint and whatnot. But I give it just a strict 9 out of 10. It is just a great movie. The whole trilogy is a 9 out of 10 for me, ultimately. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'd probably give it an 8.5. I mean, in many ways, I always thought this movie was between an 8 and an 8.5, but I'll give it an 8.5. If I take into account all the changes of this film that I don't like, it would make it an 8. But I look at the film at what it should have been and was at one point, and I pick and choose an 8.5, certainly.
That's respectable. I think that's where most people feel the film is. I think when I saw it on IMDb last, it was an 8.3, which was the lowest rated one in the original
That's very
trilogy.
fair.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas Empire and New Hope were more 9 out of 10, I think. So obviously Empire being higher than A New Hope. So yeah.
I mean, I always rate Empire the highest out of the original trilogy. It's not my favorite.
Everyone does, yeah.
I mean, I like all 3 films tremendously, and A New Hope is my favorite, which I think most people don't like A New Hope as much, but most people like Empire, and then after that, Jedi.
Jedi.
Like Yankee loves Jedi.
I love my Jedi. But the thing is, though,
And he loves the Ewok movies,
I
too.
love my Ewok movie. Well, I love
He loves the Ewok.
the second movie. The first one's kind of unwatchable.
The second one, yeah.
The first one's
Endor. Battle of Endor, yeah. That's
yeah.
okay.
Battle for Endor is not bad. It's a pretty good kids film. But yeah, but honestly, I don't look at these films as individual films. I look at this as one big film. So that's why the totality of the whole thing. So I'm just like, that's why I feel like a 9 out of 10 is acceptable for all 3 movies at the end of the day for me, because I just feel like this is just one big movie from beginning to end. That's why, as soon as I'm done with one, I want to watch the next one. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, Return of the Jedi has a lot of things that the other 2 films don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And
green lightsaber.
I mean, it's yeah.
I love that green lightsaber.
It's a great film, and yep.
Yeah. So
if you don't like it, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. At this point, it's just like I like what I like, and that's what I like. And yeah, so thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Return of the Jedi. We're done with the original trilogy, but like I mentioned, now we're coming from them prequels.
Oh, yay, great.
Yeah, all the best stuff in that one. Oh,
Well, you know what? I'll happily review the prequels over those sequels any day.
yep. But until then, we'll be seeing you guys next time.
May the Force be with you always.